Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're here with comic Ganesh Nair. Ganesh Nair, how the hell are you?
Not too bad.
Oh, good.
Freezing?
Freezing. It was so cold today. Thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah, no problem.
I guess, as you said, you didn't know it would be this cold when you agreed to do it.
Yeah. Hindsight is 20/20, but it's like, 15 degrees outside?
Yeah. It could be worse, but yeah, at least we are cozy down in the QED basement, so thank you. And then where can people see you do stand-up comedy on stage in New York City or sketch, and where can they find you online, and where can they find this book?
Oh, yeah. Well, I do sketch comedy with a team called Infinite Sketch. I know
Matt Stores, yeah.
Yeah, you interviewed Matt Stores before. He's one of the writers with me. And I think our next show is at the Pit in this month, February 22nd, so real soon.
Okay.
7 p.m. at the Pit. Yeah. So I do a lot of the sketch writing with those guys, and I also have written a book, Duckett and Dyer, Dicks for Hire.
I have it in front of me, Duckett and Dyer, Dicks for Hire, and I saw this on Amazon where they can get it. And real quick, this book is about, all of a sudden, people start showing up at these people's house as if it were a detective agency that they didn't know about.
Right. It's two, kind of like an odd couple pair of friends who suddenly are thrust into the low-stakes world of private detectiving, if that's even a word, and they've got to figure out who's telling people that they're detectives. So they have to become detectives in order to figure that out, and it becomes a whole kind of science fiction kind of pastiche. I'd say like Psych meets Doctor Who and Rick and Morty. It gets pretty out there.
And are they also trying to solve the mysteries that are coming in addition to solving that kind of meta mystery of how the hell did we become a detective agency?
Yeah, okay. Basically, they're being evicted from their house or from their apartment for some reason, and in order to make up the money, they have to do the side detective work that keeps coming in, and it all kind of snowballs into a large pot of misfortune, I'd like to say.
And how'd you come up with that idea, and kind of how does that relate to the kind of writing you do for Infinite Sketch at the Pit?
Well, I think I've had several ideas for like years of novels and like far out stories that I really wanted to put to paper, and over the last couple of years I decided to just do it and either publish it myself or try and find a publisher. But I try and bring things in from all these various things that have influenced me growing up. Is it Marvel Comics, Doctor Who, Star Wars, Indiana Jones?
Because you are an engineer too, right? And so that kind of informs your. I mean, having a love for science is probably the reason why you got into science, but that's also one of the reasons why the thread of science will stay in Duckett and Dyer, Dicks for Hire.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So there is a thread of science fiction and science in there. Obviously, when you're writing fiction, especially crazy comedy fiction, like I'm doing, a lot of the rules of science don't apply. Yeah. But the principle of consistency applies. So if I'm building a crazy world where the rules of science are slightly different, they at least have to be consistent, so everything links up and makes sense.
So how are the rules of science a little bit different in the Duckett and Dyer, Dicks for Hire world?
Well, I mean, if you go through the book, eventually it comes out that there is sort of multiverse travel, moving between universes one way or the other. Obviously, that's not currently possible, and frankly, it's actually very prevalent in a lot of media I've been consuming nowadays. I think it's become a thing. I know Marvel's going to be doing more of it in their movies. I know
the moving around of universes.
Yeah.
Okay, and so I guess that is how, we're slowly discovering that. That's probably, the reason why they became a detective agency without knowing it is because there's a different universe that we slowly learn about.
Yes,
exactly. That's cool. Yeah, and so how slowly do you reveal that in the first book of a series?
I think it goes halfway through until you find out exactly what's going on.
You suck. We're like, dude, I thought normal rules applied, man.
No. Then something they on the trail of one of their cases, it becomes readily apparent that they're dealing with an like amateur physicist who's made a few mistakes in his personal and professional life, and that's caused them to essentially blast backwards and forwards throughout all these different universes. And by the end of the book, spoiler alert, there's a hint of something even bigger going on that is beyond anything that they can comprehend. So I'm going to try and work that into the future books that I'm writing as well.
Yeah, so now you work so hard on this, you're promoting it, and it's under, although it's a couple characters in there, they only look for Ganesh Nair on Amazon. Like, you're the only one who wrote it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then do you see yourself in one of those lead main characters? Like,
Oh.
you and a friend of yours, are you kind of mimicking that same dynamic on, in the dialogue here?
I mean, honestly, I think what makes Duck and Dyer so fun to write and so easy for me to write, especially mostly the dialogue, is that both of the characters are me in some way. They're both sides of my personality, which kind of leads into the fact that eventually you realize, although they're both completely dysfunctional, they can't really exist without one another.
Okay.
One of them is a nervous overthinker, which I can be accused of often, while the other one just doesn't take anything seriously and makes jokes all the time. So
yeah, because you're an engineer and a comic, and I would think that one person would have to, the engineer side of Ganesh Nair would have to be, very logical. Of course, these things don't make sense. Why are we a detective agency? It's just not logical. But then there's the other side of you that loves science fiction, who needs to believe there's something out there awesome.
Absolutely,
and so those two sides keep pushing and pulling. It's like, there's got to be more. There's got to be more. And then in searching for more, the logical guy starts saying there are clues that maybe there is more. And so is there any kind of science fiction that you've loved along the way, that gave you a good feeling that your hope, because I think Jerry Seinfeld says something like, you have to love the world. And I turn on a sitcom and I was like, I don't even like this world at all. I don't want to spend a lot of time there. Is there any kind of science fiction movie or book that you just enjoyed the world so much that you're trying to mimic that same feeling when you wrote this?
Mimicking this, I guess it would have to be like Doctor Who. It's a lot of kind of clever connections and clever problem solving that goes on, even though that in Doctor Who the rules are basically made up as you go along. And
There'd have to be with that many Doctor Who seasons and episodes and Doctor Who's.
Yeah,
Okay.
it gets out of hand sometimes in Doctor Who, and I kind of wanted to mimic that to an absurd degree here, because while you work in the Doctor Who universe, the Doctor, he or she knows everything. They know what they're doing. They know what kind of problems they're solving. They're always an expert in their field. But I've always wanted to write a story where the main heroes are not experts, have to figure out what's going on as they're going along.
That would seem to be more realistic.
Yeah, because none of us are. If you or me, especially me, if I was thrust into some situation like this, how would I react? I would be scared shitless. And I'd try to be making as many jokes about it as possible so I could, keep my cool.
You puzzle it out, but with jokes, and so it's much more realistic. And also, then we will kind of feel for the characters because they're being thrust into a situation where we don't really know if they're going to get out alive.
Right.
Like, I actually don't know if these people are in danger, because if you're a private detective, you are getting into people's private lives such that certain people might be pissed off.
Right.
The husband who's cheating on the wife might not want to be discovered by the private detectives who've been hired to catch him.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. So, but with a twist. You'll see.
And by the end of the first book, you're slowly planting clues that there's even another big thing coming in the second, and in the second book of the series. And are we finding that out on the final page and just being like, "Damn you, Ganesh Nair, for waiting until the last second"? Because now we have to wait for you to write the thing, because you probably didn't write it yet, have you?
Yeah, that's right. It is on the last page.
You suck. So now you have to write it quick because your fans are going to be like, "Hell no."
Well, I'm close to done for the second one.
Oh, good.
But, at the last page of the second one.
Then there's a third one. So
oh
my Lord.
I've got a set amount of books. I'm not going to keep this going on forever and ever, but I'm a big fan of having a complete arc. So I have a set number of books. I 90% sure of exactly what's going to go on in each individual one, but I know exactly what's going to how everything's going to wrap up.
And how did you get prolific enough where you can do the infinite sketch at the Pit every other month?
Yes, it's every other month.
And then also do books here. I have he's kind enough to gift me with a physical copy of Duckin and Dyer, Dicks for Hire. So not only you have this and you're almost done with the second book, and you also do you do stand-up too or no?
No, I don't do stand-up. I'm not good on stage.
Okay.
I like to write. I like to be behind the scenes. That's my thing.
Well, I think that's particularly important with sketch because they need now. So you're just writing for Infinite Sketch, and you're with Matt Stores, and you have a whole team of you guys.
Yep.
And so every other month is a whole brand new show that you only do once.
Yes.
That's fucking tragic. I mean, like SNL, they film it, and so you could see these great sketches forever. Is there anything disappointing about the fact that certain characters that you've created in certain scenarios are going to be done after that? And is there any way you can just cannibalize them for book 2 and book 3?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure that out of all the sketches I've written over the past couple of years, I used to be with Clip Show as well, which was a lot of the Infinite Sketch guys. I'm sure a lot of my ideas or jokes have snuck their way into my other writings. But
good. Well, you own it. You did the writing. At the least you could do is cannibalize it for future work. Yeah.
But there's nothing sad about seeing something put up and it disappearing forever. Because if it really is good and if it gets an audience reaction, there's always going to be things that we repeat for like festivals that we go out to or best of shows. So it's not gone forever.
And I almost think you could partner up with the actor who did that character on stage and do some sort of YouTube series or something like that.
Yeah. The problem is just making sure that the production value is suitably high enough for it to be, appealing.
Yeah, and so here you can control that with books.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
so was the self-publishing process, the quality control that you had power over, was it easy or difficult? Did you have to bring in graphic artists to make sure it looked good as an ebook? Or, I guess it's also being shipped out as physical copies.
Yep.
So kind of were you able to have as much quality control as you wanted?
Yeah, I think so. I did most of the editing and putting together of the actual book, both in ebook formats and physical formats. It wasn't as difficult as I thought, but obviously I had some help from my friend Tarek, who's a great artist who helped me.
That's a beautiful cover.
Who helped me design this cover. He and I kind of communicate on a great level. When I give him a reference to like a comic book or an art style, he knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh,
and can just kind of slap it on the page.
And then, how do you fulfill orders via Amazon, like physical copies? Do you have to just have, do you have 20 on hand, or do you ship 20? When we order through Amazon, when we go to Ganesh Nair and we look up Duckin and Dyer, Dicks for Hire, how the hell is that order being fulfilled? Does the order go to you and then you send it directly to the person purchasing?
With independent publishing, that's actually been made really easy in terms of ordering books. For the devil that is Amazon, it makes things very easy. I don't have to have any copies of the book on hand.
Oh, good.
If it's basically print to order. If you order a physical copy, they can send you a paperback directly. But there's also another service that I use that I've uploaded for if some bookstores do carry it, or if you can go to a local bookstore if you'd rather support a local business than be a giant faceless conglomerate. You can go to a local bookstore, ask them for it, and they can order in the paperback or a hardcover for you.
Well, see, all we really care about is that the local person they're supporting is Ganesh Nair.
Yes.
And so if people want to find you on, I was able to find this easily on Amazon, but I think I might have done it through your Twitter where I follow you. And are you Ganesh Nair there?
Yes.
Okay.
I managed to snag that before any of the copious amounts of Ganesh Nairs.
Yeah, there is, though, isn't there? I think I Googled it. I thought there was a couple. Probably not in comedy. Nobody is funny.
Yeah. No, I'm the only one that's funny.
Okay. Yeah. And you're the only one I follow on Twitter, and through there I was able to find a link to it, and people are already buying and reviewing this thing favorably.
Yeah. People seem to like it, which was a huge surprise for me and a huge relief. I was like, okay, this is the first thing I'm actually putting out there for public consumption, and I've had full control over it, which was great for me. But if people hate it, that's gonna be a real blow to the old self-esteem.
Because you can no longer blame it on the other Infinite Sketch members.
No, I can't throw anybody else out.
You can't throw Matt Stores under the bus. No. But when they want to see the one-time only Infinite Sketch show, there's one coming up February 22nd at the Pit.
Yep.
Okay,
7 p.m.
Ganesh Nair, I got my Duckett and Dyer Dicks for Hire right here, and hopefully I can read it soon, and hopefully I can put up a review somewhere.
That would be amazing. Thank you so much.
So thank you, Ganesh Nair.
Thanks, Brian.